Welcome, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole here on Connecting the Universe. I'm author and researcher Mike Ricksecker, back at you with my co-hostess Victoria Mundae and Alina down in the chat. So we have a fantastic show coming up for you tonight. Author and researcher Jason Quitt is with us this evening. He's done a lot of fantastic work over the years. I've been following his work for a while, but just finally met him for the first time here at Conscious Life Expo, where he won it. I have to read this off because it's a few words here. So the Universal Wisdom Award for Illuminating Universal Truths and Insights. That's a mouthful, Jason,
Wow.
but it was well deserved.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Yeah, I was not expecting that because everybody was submitting their books.
Yeah.
You submitted your book, I submitted my book, and I was like, okay, this is a new book. I really want to get it out there, and we didn't get enough votes, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm thinking, oh man, like I really wanted my book, and then they said we're giving out a couple other awards, and so that was a big surprise.
Yeah, that was very, very nice. Yeah, neither of us won the book award. It was kind of funny because a couple months beforehand, I had finally met Katie Norris over. It was a live stream that we were doing together, and she had submitted her book too, and she was like in this. It was like a friendly competition, back and forth, back and forth. And so at the end of it, we're like, we're both losers. Yeah. But it was all in good fun. It was a great time. So, but yes, your reward was definitely well deserved. So, definitely want to get into a lot of your work. Your latest book here, I'll bring the image up, is Gates of the Anunnaki, which can be. And Jason, I meant to actually. I know I have it down in the description here. Your website is Crystal Sun.
TheCrystalSun.com.
TheCrystalSun.com.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us about what's going on with the new book and what can we expect in there about the Anunnaki?
Sure. Well, I've been going down a rabbit hole for the past 3 years now, or 4. Time is passing pretty quickly, as we just mentioned.
Yeah.
Basically, during COVID, I was stuck in Canada, like most people, and it gave me the opportunity to sit down and finally write a book. So I was writing a book, which was the Egyptian Postures, which is all basically my spiritual journey of awakening and information of like meditation and postures and ancient mysticism from Egypt. And so I had the time. So I was really going back and researching and reading the old texts. I didn't really want to read interpretations of text. I really wanted to read the words of the Egyptians from the best translations I could find.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to, put the symbolism together and just dive deep into the mysteries of Egypt. And it kind of led me on a path that I wasn't expecting. Because for me, if you know my previous work, I've been talking about this publicly since about 2015, all about like out-of-body experiences and, the phenomenon and all these things. So I really am interested in the afterlife.
Yeah.
And the Egyptians, as you know, it's all about the afterlife. It's all about what happens and, where you travel and, you go see Osiris and all these things. So I was really interested in that kind of aspect of the Egyptian knowledge, which is the afterlife. So I started to research all these ancient texts, and I started to see a connection to the afterlife and the mysticism, and it's connected to the cycles of time and the stars.
Yeah.
And, we go back into ancient cultures and everything is connected to the stars. Everything is, they have sacred stars, they have sacred constellations, sacred seasons, times of years. And I just always thought that was kind of like separate than like the gods. And then as I'm starting to do this research, I'm starting to see that more and more that this hidden language or this hidden mysticism, it's all about the as above, so below principle.
Yeah.
And that, when you're having a festival to a certain god, it's because that god is now appearing in the heavens because, it's about a constellation. So when you see those stars in the sky, you have these festivals, you mark the calendars, and then all these mythologies start to unfold from these time of the years. And as I started to just go down this rabbit hole, all these pieces from all directions started to come together, and I had to kind of record it. So I was actually writing a second book, which was Egyptian Postures of Power 2, which was all about the moon. And I was writing this chapter, and I was going into the ancient tombs of Egypt, especially in the Valley of the Kings.
Sure.
And I was looking at a lot of the hieroglyphs, and I was throwing them on my computer screen and tracing them and drawing them, because, you know, you got to draw them for all the graphics. And I started to notice that there was a trend in a lot of the pictures. And I'm the posture guy. Like, you know, I'm looking at the different postures very closely because I do meditation postures based on the Egyptian artwork. And there's a lot of these postures that I was looking at. And I had a teacher who once told me, if you want to know the secrets of anything, you have to measure it. So what an opportunity I had. You know, I have the hieroglyphs on my computer screen. I'm tracing them perfectly. You know, every point had to be perfect. So I started to measure the angles of different things, and I started to find a repeating number over and over again. And this repeating number was 23.5 degrees.
Right.
And I didn't know what this was at first.
Well, you were finding it everywhere.
I was just finding it in everywhere. And so I looked it up on Google, and, you know, 23.5 degrees is something they teach everybody in like middle school, which is, it's the tilt of the earth, which gives us our seasons.
Which is, you know, the one fact that we all remember from middle school, of course. Yeah.
Exactly. They always tell about the wobble of the earth, the precession. And, you know, so I'm kind of blown away because, you know, when you're looking at these hieroglyphs, and I could throw some up on the screen soon to show you, but, you know, when you're looking at them, everybody says they're solar cults. Like, this is the solar god, this is the lunar god. Like, it's very distinct. They have the solar disc above their head, or they have the lunar crescent, or a different animal. And so it's very interesting where you have, let's say, like a solar deity, and he's like in a position, and then when you measure him, he has all these angles that relate to the sun. And I said, okay, this is crazy. I've never heard anybody talk about this before. So I just started to go down this kind of crazed path of finding artwork from Egypt and seeing if it followed this kind of motif, or a solar motif of these angles. And what I found is it actually goes further back than we think, and it extends further back into other cultures, let's say like the Sumerians. And it comes forward into the greatest work of art, which is Leonardo da Vinci and other famous artists. So it's almost like that there's this secret language that is taught to like the priest class, or a secret language that is taught to the artists. And what they're doing is they're basically encoding celestial knowledge directly into the artwork itself.
Right.
And just from someone looking at a picture, you could say this is just a doodle. You know, it's but whoever created these images had to be highly trained in the science of astronomy.
Well, you would imagine it'd have to be a little bit more than a doodle if you're having all of these pieces of art align so succinctly to each other, same angles. I mean, that's very precise.
Exactly. And, you know, there's a famous picture of Thoth and the Temple of Abydos, where he's standing there and he has a measuring rod in his hand, but he's standing in this kind of weird position with his hand down, holding like a club, and he's holding a scepter like this. And it's like, when you measure like his eye to his hand to the rod, to like all these angles that are intersecting, it's like Thoth is literally like the measurement of the cosmos. He's like holding all these degrees. And I think this is where we get our secret societies from. You know, we talk about like the Freemasons, where they're always showing the compass and the square, and you have to go through the degrees. You know, the top is the 33rd degree. Like, this is all astrological language of cycles, of the movement of stars.
Mhm.
And it goes all the way back. So
Yeah, and what's fascinating to me about that is, you're talking about a knowledge that is not, one person in their lifetime is not going to be able to observe all this. This is something that has to be passed down for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So, how are they able to, pass down that knowledge? Was that through the artwork?
Yeah, I believe it was through the artwork and the architecture itself, where
Yeah.
they would align them and create the proportions to be in very specific ratios to reflect the sun and the moon and the stars. And I think this was like the whole secret. It was, to know God was to know creation. And once you understood that kind of sacred geometry cycle, or the numbers of creation, the repeating patterns, once they knew those numbers, then they encoded it and built their artifacts, their language, the temples to hold onto these numbers. So to be in the image of God itself. And by doing it, it's kind of like this reflection of magic, so it's imbued with sacred properties or sacred frequencies or sacred vibrations, because they were in resonance with nature and the natural cycles. And, when you go to Egypt, if you go there in the solstices or the equinoxes, that the sun will be aligned at various temples, where the rising sun would actually go through passages or go through windows and, let's say, illuminate the face of Amun, just on that day. Extremely precise. So yes, it takes a very, very long time of observing nature to have this knowledge and then pass it down. But the reason why I'm pushing it so much, and I keep throwing this in people's faces, maybe I shouldn't be doing it too much, but the reason I'm doing it is because, according to mainstream history, they said that the Greeks basically found this out. So they say the first people to measure these angles only happened about 2,000 years ago.
But yet you're finding it in this artwork dating back much, much further.
Yes. The furthest I found it is about 25,000 years ago.
Okay.
Okay.
So 25,000 years, where was that at?
That was in France. There's a Venus.
Cave art?
No, it's actually a goddess.
Oh, the idol, the little
yes.
Venus idol. Okay, I've seen that. Yeah.
So the angles are preserved in that piece of artwork.
Interesting.
But so it goes. That's the furthest I found it. But it's also in Sabirch, Turkey. So that goes back almost 12,000 years.
Okay.
So, and it has astrological motifs as well. So where did this knowledge come from? It definitely came from the Ice Age, is my conclusion. Where did it come from? Who did it come from? I don't know. But somehow this knowledge has been preserved. I can see it through Europe, like I can see it from France to Turkey. And then I see it in Samaria, Egypt, and then working its way all the way to Leonardo da Vinci.
It's interesting that you noted it in France first, because usually we make that correlation, Sumer, Egypt, that's where all of this came from. But yet you're actually finding it in France. So is there a different, for lack of a better term, a different migratory pattern that we haven't really considered yet?
I'm not sure. I think it has to do with just the passing of information. But what makes this information so valuable is it's that we could find it in different cultures. All right. So if I can find it in Egypt, and then I can find it in Peru or Bolivia.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Right. And we see that in a number of different occasions, whether it's the artwork, it could be pine cones, handbags, spirals, all kinds of different things. Or even in the architecture, you see that with like the different pyramids and other structures. So yeah, I guess that's kind of the age old question. How did they pass that knowledge?
Right. We don't know.
We don't know.
and we don't know that. I mean, really,
I'll put you right on the spot here, Jason. How did they do it? Yeah.
I don't know, but the only thing it tells me, like, we can go back to Sumeria, which is the foundation of all our numbering systems.
Yeah.
So mathematics, angles, they measured the sky. So we're talking about a system that's going back like at least 6,000 years of measurement. And we have tablets to prove that they're, marking the stars and all these things. Sure. So we can go back 6,000 years and say, okay, they have this knowledge. And then we say, okay, the Sumerians knew this knowledge. And then now we have Göbekli Tepe and all these incredible places that predate everything by another 6,000 years. So we can go back to 12,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. And, we're looking at pillars with, I would say, star charts on them.
Yeah.
Like pillar 43, I believe, is definitely has the constellations and the movement of the sun through them, which is just crazy to think of, that they had that information about 12,000 years ago. And then when you go to Sayburch, which is just, I think it's a couple hundred miles away from Göbekli Tepe, it has an image of like a bullfighter, and it has an image of a man with two lions by his side. Like, these are motifs that we see over and over again, right into current times.
Yeah, yeah, you see that all throughout the ancient world as it's kind of passed through. And the thing that amazes me about Göbekli Tepe is, there's only such a small percentage that they have uncovered. And from my understanding, it should really be the most recent structures that are there. So, what's that other, maybe 85% that's still under there? They're estimating it's going to take 150 years to excavate it, if they excavate it. So that blows my mind. What other secrets are down there? What older knowledge is there?
I think they're I've heard their excuses where, a lot of the excuses is they don't have the right technology to do it properly, which I kind of get. That's something you can say. But another thing that I was thinking about recently is what happened in Iraq, what happened in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
The cradle of civilization, once it became taken over from war, the first thing that they did was they went to the museums and smashed everything.
Right. Well, and they stole the important pieces that were hidden in the back.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they really don't want that information coming to the public. So could you imagine finding the most incredible things of our history, and then suddenly it gets into the wrong hand and it gets destroyed? So maybe if things calm down, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll share a story here with you, Jason. Because I know we got a chance to chat, but I know this is not a story that you've probably heard from me. I know we didn't talk about it. When I was there in Egypt back in 2021, we were at the Temple of Dendera, and they had just recently opened up one of the crypts, and it's like first time in 20 years they've opened this thing up. And so we're down in there, and we're looking to see, because the most famous one there has the quote unquote light bulbs. So we're down there looking to see if we could find any more of the light bulbs and that sort of thing, which we did. And there are other things, other motifs on the walls. But something that I noticed down there were that there were a lot of blocks that were missing from the walls, just like huge chunks taken out. And you're like looking around. It's a narrow passage, so okay, nothing's on the ground. Otherwise, we'd be tripping all over it. But what I noticed was that, on the backside of the wall where the chunk was taken out, you had very distinct white marks, white chisel marks that were there. So it's like, oh, somebody chiseled these out, and they're fairly white. So this was recent. So when I got back out of the crypt, I'm remarking about this and just kind of being a little vocal about like, hey, what's going on down there? And one of the docents kind of pulled me aside, shh. One of the things that had been going on, or kind of long story short, what had been going on during part of those 20 years beforehand, where there were certain pieces that were designated as like the power pieces, the pieces that had the knowledge, and they actually had private bidding wars on these pieces. So, yeah, that kind of adheres to your, what you were saying, is that there's some knowledge that's being hidden, or people that believe that, these are going to either enhance their life or give them some sort of power or something like this, or, power through knowledge.
And you have to remember, Dendera is very special.
It is.
It's because it's the last of the Egyptian era. It's like literally that is the last. And so they've taken the knowledge from Egypt, Greece, Roman, they've taken all this knowledge and they've placed it in there. So it's kind of like a tomb for all the knowledge that has come before.
Yeah.
So there's some pretty crazy stuff there. And, I love the light bulb, quote unquote, light bulb things.
Yeah.
Because I do have an answer for it, which is a really interesting answer for that.
Well, it'd be interesting what your take is on it, because we do our tours with Mohammed Ibrahim for Stargates of Ancient Egypt tour, and he tells a very interesting story of creation, where in the one wall you have the two light bulbs, the opposite wall you have one. So he's talking about kind of the moment of creation and those two forces combining to become the one. So that's one take, but I've heard a lot of different variations. What's your take on that?
Well, I'll show you some pictures in a moment.
Sure.
But I'll just say you have to understand where you are. You're in, is dedicated to Hathor. What is the symbol of Hathor? It's the lotus, it's the lotus flower.
It's the lotus, and you have right, and the lotus is symbolized right there on the quote unquote light bulb. Yeah,
and creation itself, like Ibrahim was talking about, the secret symbol of Nut, who does Nun, which is the abyss, the dark waters, the primal force, symbolized the creation as a bubble. All right, so as the blowing the bubble out of the lotus flower symbolizes creation. So that's one thing. So, and you see a serpent coming out of the lotus, and you find the serpent coming out of the lotus in a lot of places. It's not just over there. And the serpent is the Ka. All right, it's the spirit of Ra. It's the double. It's the life force, the life of creation being birthed out of the lotus in creation of Nun. You have the figures on either side. They're in double. It's showing the double of the Ka, so the physical body and the Ka body. And for me, it is the symbol of the cycles of creation itself, which follows along exactly what Ibrahim was saying. So let me see if I could find this for you before you throw up.
I know you have some.
Before you throw up the screen,
yeah.
I gotta find it before you throw it, because I have like 200 slides here.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So let me see if I can find it. We're jumping way ahead here.
You're fine. And I know Victoria's going to have some questions for you. She's been waiting patiently back there.
Not about Egypt.
Okay. Okay. So you can share the screen.
Yep. Okay. Here we go. Yep.
Okay,
Here we go.
So this is me tracing that famous scene, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can see that. And by the way, I'll give you the secret code. It's a language, and you have to understand the keys to break the code. All right. And the keys are the eyes. Okay. So it has to do with the eyes and the belly button. So those are like the main points of this diagram. And you can see that the Jed pillar is kind of turned diagonal a little.
Correct.
Okay. And you see how the light bulbs, they're in various positions. So remember the rule. If you want to know something, measure it. That's the secret. So let me see if I can just find.
So you measured the angles here. Hi, yeah, here we go.
So there we go.
Oh, you are finding the 23.5 all over the place.
Okay, so for example, if you look at directly in the center of the screen, this block. So this is the center point of the screen. Mm-hmm. From the center point of the screen, or the center point of the image, you can see a line going directly into the person's eyes.
Yeah.
All right. So that's just one thing. And if you go from the lotus angle, from the left lotus, it goes directly into the serpent's eye. Now, from the belly button, it goes 15 degrees into the serpent's eye. So what is 15 degrees? 15 degrees is the measure of the sun travels through the sky at 15 degrees per hour. So this is how we divide the heavens. It's by 15 degree intervals per hour.
Yeah.
So if you, and the Jed pillar itself is also turned at 23.5 degrees.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, it's fascinating.
So they're encoding the universe, or the cycles of the universe, in here. And there's even more. So if we measure the other side, so the left snake was more like the sun. But if you measure the bulbs, they're at all these other angles, which are 18.5 degrees and 28.5 degrees, which is the lunar cycle of 18.6 years. So these are like the lunar solstices.
So you have both the sun and the moon, solar and lunar, embedded into this.
Correct.
Interesting.
And like you can see from like the base of the lotus flower, the base of the feet on the right side, it goes directly into the eye in the middle at 18.5 degrees. You know, if we take the belly button angle here, this light bulb as well, and the serpent and the bulb, they're all these things. There's also an interesting angle in there as well, which is 21.6 degrees, which is the 8-year cycle of Venus, the morning star.
Interesting.
And as you know, the morning star in ancient culture was basically the light that brings the sun. So, you know, this is what you look for on the horizon for the birth of the sun. So we keep finding these angles in the artwork over and over again. So and it's not just there, like, you know, we can go back 1,000 years. So this is 1,000 years before the Dendera light bulbs. And this is from the Tomb of Ramses. And it shows a very similar thing. It shows the serpent kind of turned up like the lotus, but it's being bound. This is kind of like Apophis being bound. You have Thoth as the monkey on one side. You have Anubis on the other. And if you measure from the tail directly to its eye, it's 23.5 degrees. From the eye of Anubis to the eye of the serpent, 23.5 degrees. And the angle of the staff, same thing, 23.5. And from the eye to the monkey's butt, just the slope of the snake, it's at 15 degrees. So again, it's like it's showing the same symbolism using the same angles. So for someone doesn't really understand these, they're not just doodles. They're trying to show you something that is not in the hieroglyphs. It's not in the stories themselves. You kind of have to be taught how to measure these and how they apply to the world to understand this knowledge.
Yeah, this would be something that those who were what we call the mystery schools, those who were students there, would be taught this information that's encoded in here.
Exactly. So like, let's go to like Babylon, right? And we have the image of Shamash, and you know, the god Shamash is the god of the sun.
Right.
So this is Shamash. He's holding a tool, which is an astrological measuring tool. And above him is the star of Ishtar, his star, which is the star of Shamash, and the star of Nana, which is the crescent moon. And if you measure the angle of his rod, it goes directly into the center point of the star of Ishtar. And Ishtar was the goddess of Venus, the morning star. And she was twin sisters with Shamash. And that's because, you know, you see her before you see Shamash every night.
Yeah.
And 21.6 degrees is very important in the measuring of Venus, because that is the orbit of the 8-year cycle that creates the 5-pointed star, the pentagram in the sky.
Which is what we just saw back there in Dendera. Right?
Yes. And so this is what you're looking at. This is Isaac Newton's drawing of the orbit of between Earth and Venus. And you get this image, you get this sacred geometry.
Yeah.
But to understand this and to get this design, it's all based on 21.6 degrees.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So,
and just kind of an aside here, Jason.
Yeah. And
so when I look at this image, this is from, and we're looking at ancient Sumer, correct?
Yes. So this
Yeah.
would be Akkadian, Babylonian at this time, I think.
Right. But we see this type of iconography also all over Egypt. You have, somebody seated inside of an enclosure, and within the seat, you're finding, I believe those are supposed to be minotaurs, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but we see it. It's one of those things I always try. I'm always looking for connections, where things are. I mean, you're doing this is fascinating with the numbers, but also the iconography itself is has some similarities to things that we find elsewhere.
Absolutely. So, what I'm trying to show is you have to measure these things. And, if you go to like the full scene, for example,
Okay. Yeah.
you have these three smaller people. You have two guys up here that are holding a rope on the sun disk. All these things these are impeccably laid out. Like if you actually start to measure these things, see this rod here is actually the cubit. So this is the key, like the key of life of the whole thing. So once you understand this measurement, all the other measurements come into play. And you can see that if you take the heights of these three people and you measure from the base of Shemesh's throne to the top of his head, it's exactly perfect. It's the same.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
So this is done absolutely meticulously to hold ancient knowledge. Let me see if I can find. So
Do y'all know? I'm
Go ahead,
sorry.
Victoria. Sorry.
It's obvious. Well, it's obvious to me. Higher education or higher knowledge was held within these etchings or whatever you want to call them, drawings, sculptures. So it lasts through society or through history.
Yes.
It's been so long since I spoke. Okay. Anyway, and everything is measured by degrees, correct? When we go to college and to institutes of higher education, we end up getting a degree.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing? It's like,
Yes,
hey, nudge.
Yeah, it's all secret knowledge. And this is the basis of our word. So, let's go back to like ancient Egypt and the Book of the Dead, for example, where the person dies, they go to the throne of Osiris, they're being judged with the scales, their heart is on the scale with Ma'at, the feather. If you go to the earliest text relating to the afterlife, it's the pyramid texts of Unas, which is the oldest. And when you read that, it's very different. Okay, so it's a completely different story. Right. And the reason is because that was for the pharaoh. All right.
Yeah.
So you get one story for the pharaoh, you get another story for the population.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
I read it.
I have a specific question for you, and
Okay.
actually, I don't have the image here. I could probably dig it up on my phone. So Pyramid of Unas.
Yeah.
Inside, and this is symbolism that we've been, Kate and I've been noticing different parts of the world. You're talking about these things, being connected. There's a specific symbol, and it's all over the wall. Essentially, it's a triangle with a circle over the top. I don't know if you've kind of noticed that in there, but we find it all over. There was something popped up the other day. It was out in Saudi Arabia. Do
you have a picture of it? You could throw it up?
I could dig it up off my phone,
Okay.
which I'll do. So,
Okay.
Victoria, go ahead and get to.
I know what that means.
Yeah. I know you have a bunch of questions, and you've been waiting patiently, so I'll get that photo.
Yeah, but the reason I brought up the pyramid is that, or the Pyramid of Unas, is that in our society, and it goes back thousands of years, and what you said about degrees and this hidden language, is that there is a class of initiates that has a completely different knowledge, completely different understanding of the world, and it's not given to the general population. So, we're using certain words, like you said. We have certain myths and stories, but then once you get initiated into these higher levels, the stories or the perspective of the stories completely change. So it's amazing to see kind of like, we don't understand the words we're saying. We don't understand the words we're using. And it's kind of like magic. We're under the spell of spelling. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Which is why we call it spelling.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But we study all that in art history. We learn about perspective, degrees, and angles. So it's something that's still being communicated, maybe not to the degree that you went into it with all the mysticism and everything, but it's still there. Anyway, while Mike is going through his 8,000 photos.
Yeah. I found it. I'm just uploading it right now.
It's
go ahead.
I know I've seen it. It's the triangle with the little circle. I thought that represented the sun or something. Anyway, you were talking earlier about Egyptian poses.
Yeah.
And how do they activate the energy cycle within the human body? And are they related to yoga poses in any way?
Sure. We only have one body. It moves in it moves the same basically. And our body is a mirror of the universe. We have the sacred angles, geometry within it. We are a measuring tool of the universe. And think of your body as a fluid geometry. So when you are just standing straight, you have energy coming through your body. But if you change your posture, you change the way energy moves through your body. All right. So what you're doing is you're making energy signatures depending on the posture that you're entering into. So if you meditate with a certain posture or a certain mudra, what you're actually doing is telling the energy where to go and how to use it.
Okay, so would the breath work be like the elevator or the escalator moving the energy through the body?
Yes, the breath is kind of like the what is the word for it? The generator. Okay, so it's like depending on how fast you breathe or how slow you breathe, what you're doing is you're moving the energy. And where your mind goes, energy goes. So if you focus on a very specific part of your body and do the breathing, that energy will go to that part of the body while you're breathing. Think, like the bunny ears on a TV, like the old TVs.
Yeah.
How old are you? I am just
43. I remember.
Oh, he's a youngin'.
Yeah. But the bunny ears, how do you get a channel on your TV? What you're doing is you're trying to pick a frequency out of the air. So you move the ears, you move the antennas, and then once you hit that channel, you let go. You're like, okay, I tuned in to that frequency, and now I can watch that show. It's the same thing with body postures. It's like if you tune into a certain frequency or tune into a certain body posture, you're moving your energy into a frequency range just like an antenna. And then you start to move that energy through your body just by standing in the right posture.
Okay. So if you can use energy healing and your posturing to heal the physical body, can you also, and I'm not sure the right way to say it, use it to heal your spiritual body or your energetic body? Is it like somatic yoga where you can get rid of trauma?
That is the exact purpose of it. And what you're trying to do is, because you're a multidimensional being and your physical body connects all through these layers of this multidimensional self. And what you're doing with body postures and meditation is you're expanding your awareness, or you're awakening these other bodies that are connected to you. And a lot of these bodies carry a lot of garbage, emotions, thought forms, traumas, like wounds, and they're distortions of your energy field. So you have this kind of energy form, is what I'll say. Every person has their energy form where energy moves in a specific way based on your traumas and experiences in life. All right. That's why you see the world completely different from everybody else. And you have your own unique vibration than anybody else.
So is that the same thing as the 10 bodies? I think is what it's called.
I don't know, but probably.
I just heard about that the other day because I don't know if you've heard of this before, but I just got a biomat today. I've used it before and it's just done fantastic things. And it's infused with crystals and it has EMFs, a pulsating EMF that mimics the EMF of the earth.
So that like the Schumann resonance, or you get the infrared heat through the crystals. Yeah, very healing, because all these products, all these things are, what they're trying to do is they're trying to duplicate a natural phenomenon which is kind of like the ideal state of the human, is to be in the environment of these frequencies. So, if you're living in an artificial environment and you go and you stand or you lay on these things, it's like taking a walk in a forest. So you're getting reconnected. Yeah.
Which is something I do all the time, the forest bit. But aren't the pyramids supposed to be like regeneration chambers also?
Because
in
of
theory.
it has to do with a couple things. It has to do with the elements. Okay, the environment it's in, like the ley lines or the earth, if there's water running underneath it, and the geometry of it. And the structure of the pyramid is very, very sacred. When we talk about 51.8 degrees, what we're really talking about a number that is the first number of creation. Because if you take, goes back to like the fundamentals of geometry. If you take a circle, which is 360 degrees, a circle, there's no real angle of a circle. Circle is just infinite. And then when you take the two circles, like you have here, and you put them together, you get the Vesica Pisces. And in the Vesica Pisces, you can put another Vesica Pisces, like an infinite tunnel. And if you match the lines of the inner Vesica Pisces to the outer Vesica Pisces, you get the 51.8 degree triangle, which is the first basically three-dimensional angle of creation. So you have this fundamental structure, and I would say that's like the image of creation itself is this triangle. So very powerful symbolism. So when you enter into, let's say, the womb of these pyramids, which is that's what it is, you're entering the womb of these pyramids, and you meditate, you're basically in the structure of creation or in the frequency of creation. That's what I believe.
Okay, I thought 369 was the cornerstone of the universe. Is it not?
369 is the key to understanding the secrets of the universe.
Oh, okay. Which
is a
enlighten me?
I'll call it a fractal vortex of creation, as in those are the numbers where energy flows in a vortex.
Okay. Oh, what's that thing? Everything's like a nautilus and it spins around. What's that called?
Portal, vortex.
No, it's a mathematical thing where everything is seashells.
The golden means.
Oh yeah, you're talking about phi, the golden ratio.
But there's a big word that starts with an F or something.
Fibonacci.
The Fibonacci sequence, but that's
same thing. Or
all these numbers connect. All these numbers connect. So you're right on these things. It's just about the use or the knowledge of it. For example, when you're talking about like 3, 6, and 9, you're also talking about the fundamental building blocks of creation. You're talking about the building blocks of the Platonic solids. And then once you have those sacred geometries, they all reduce to 9. They're all based on 6 and 3. Like, it's just this kind of repeating pattern that our world is kind of built upon. And, this is why a lot of people think that we live in a simulation, because it's based on these very interesting laws of sacred geometry.
Okay. And the synchronicity of it is something I've always found really interesting. Oh, shoot. I had a question about synchronicity. Hang on. It'll come back to me. It's gone now. The angel numbers in synchronicity. Do you think you can basically train your subconscious to like look at your phone or your watch at 11:11 or something? Or is this like a divine consciousness that runs through everyone to make us look at our phone at 11:11? Or how does that work?
I'll just say you're going to start seeing 34 now.
34.
And every time you look up, there it is.
The reason is, here's the thing. And I don't know why 34 came to me. Maybe that's something for you, but
that's my age. So.
Okay, good. But basically, when we're talking about synchronicities or angel numbers or these repeating patterns, it's almost like the subconscious is actually tapping us on our shoulder and saying, be present. Okay.
I think, you're talking about frequency earlier. I think part of it is, we become familiar with some of these frequencies. So, whether it's going to be 34 now, right?
Yeah.
But noticing angel numbers for me, it's like I'll look up a lot of times. I'll see, it's 823, or I might even have like, a ticket from, I don't know, like a restaurant or whatever. It says 823 on there. It's like, this is bizarre. And other numbers tend to follow me, like 10 and 21 and these others. I think it's like we're tuned into those frequencies, and when our consciousness becomes aware that that frequency is nearby and that it correlates with that particular number.
Well, it's like my birthday is 10/22. I look at my watch all the time at 10/22. I got on an airplane for a job interview. The flight number was, say it with me, 10/22. I knew I had the job. I mean, it's just, there's a synchronicity that just keeps running through life, which I think is really cool. And I know
it's also like deja vu. It's also like deja vu. It's almost like a reminder that you're on the right path.
Yeah.
That was the other thing. Do you think deja vu is like us looking at a parallel life?
Absolutely. Or not just a parallel life, but our life. And like there's an example. It was so random. I'm basically I'm in Italy. I'm filming this documentary in Italy. This is years ago. And I'm in a van driving down a road in Italy with like a film crew that I don't know. They're all Italian. And I'm in the back seat. I'm like, I literally had this dream like 10 years ago.
Yep.
And I was just so like, because I remember having that dream and being like this doesn't make any sense. It's like, I don't know.
I'll propose to you, it's a form of time travel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Is it time travel, or are you on multiple dimensions or multiple
doesn't
timelines?
Exist, Victoria.
Timelines.
What is the fourth?
Looking up.
Mike definitely knows this, but what's the fourth dimension? It's time.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
so
yeah. Okay.
So we're in the three dimensions.
How many shows have we done together?
I was thinking the fourth wall,
But if you think of our consciousness, we could say our consciousness is fourth dimensional.
It's exactly right. And when you're talking about us being multidimensional beings, we are, because our fourth dimensional consciousness is inside our third dimensional body. The 3D body will pass, but our fourth dimensional consciousness remains.
And if the dream I had, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, and if you have a 4-dimensional consciousness, and that consciousness can travel, let's say when you sleep, you can jump from the future to the past, no problem, and then come back to the present.
I think Jason read my book. Or we're of the same mind, which could be.
Every night I don't sleep. Speaking of sleeping, can you tell me what a shamanic dream teacher is, and how do you work with them? Or can you work with them? And my other question, which is like the same question, but not really, in the fairy world, because I know we're running out of time, can you connect to a specific fairy in the fairy world, and would they be like your guide or your guardian or someone who could help you when you're in that realm? And my other question is, do you think people can live in two or more realms at the same time? I'm done. Okay.
I think you just asked me like 3 or 4 questions there.
I'll just kind of go backwards here. There are people that can live between worlds, but that could also be a mental illness, because if you to separate, you don't want some other life stream in this life stream. It's just too chaotic. I'll tell you that right now. So yes, it is possible, but I wouldn't try that. As for your guide, it depends on where you're going. And you also have to remember the spiritual world is very interesting, where if they want to come talk to you, they will actually choose a form that they think will be proper for that visitation. So they may come to you as like your mother, and you would think you're talking to your mother in your dreams, but you're not. You're talking to this spiritual being that's a guide, but it knows that you're going to have a reaction to your mother. So, if you put it out there that you want to meet, let's say the fairy queen or whoever you want to meet to guide you, that's probably a very specific realm of the earth that you're connecting with. And I would leave sweets.
Yes.
Okay. So
Mead,
yes,
mead and honey.
leave
There
some
you go.
sweets for them, call on them, and then see what happens.
But like they say that you have a guardian angels and spirit guides that are assigned to you at birth or whatever.
Yeah.
Could you possibly have a fairy guide that is assigned to you at birth, or is it like a privilege to actually be in the fairy realm and talk to them?
It really depends on what your connections were before this life,
Okay.
or being introduced into next life. Many people don't have those connections, so it can be very specific to you. But you also have to know that, yes, you are assigned, let's say, that guide, and you'll have them throughout your life. But as you go through different challenges and experiences through life, others will step in to assist. So it's almost like countless. You can't really predict, but you do have that kind of main one that kind of will allow these others to come into your life stream.
And on the flip side, they could go running out of your life if it gets too chaotic and hectic too. They no more.
I think they knew the risk before. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Oh, and the shamanic dream teacher.
Okay.
Is that
This is
There's
our rapid
different-
fire round.
Yeah, there's different levels to that, so I don't know which to speak about. Like just regular dreams where you can have experiences where you work through your trauma in the dream world or get guidance in the dream world. There's also where you go on journeys where you can have collective journeys where the teacher will come to you in the dream world and speak to you and teach you. So that's how you do the work with them. You don't necessarily need a physical person to teach you this. You can just kind of pray and ask for these dream teachers to come to you and work with you in your dreams.
So is it like the same thing? Like if you're going to astral travel, you start thinking about this as you fall asleep, and when you hit the theta or beta waves or whatever, you can connect that way?
In a sense, yeah. Everybody's different. So you could have full out of body experiences, journeys, or you could just have communication in your dreams.
Okay. Because I was thinking of Coyote Chris when I read about that today. So I was like, I wonder if that's how you could connect. Anyway. Okay.
Just put it out there. Just put it out there.
I already don't get sleep, so I might as well be doing this. So
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I tried. I tried.
I appreciate that. Was
Do you have any more?
notes.
Because you have a really long list. And like I said, I was thinking it was like the rapid fire round. Boom, boom, boom.
Nice.
Well, I know you wanted to go back to the pyramid. What do you mean by
we
pain?
can go back then.
Pain is energy.
Oh yeah.
That seems so big.
Well, everything is energy.
True.
And so, pain is a signal to the brain, which is also energy, saying that you need to pay attention to this area of your body, because all it is signals. Everything is energy. Mm-hmm. And, I could get into a lot of different stories when it comes to healing, but like what very early on, I say in my mid-20s, I had a really bad accident where I had a slip disc in like my lower back, and it was bad. Like I had to go to physio, walk with like a cane, the excruciating pain. And I had this coil, this Tesla coil, kind of similar to the mat you were talking about. And this one was from Germany, and I could like put the frequency up to 10,000 hertz, which is, they say you shouldn't do that ever. But my pain was just too much. And I'm just like I said, screw it. I need to get this pain away from me. And I put this thing on my back where the pain was. And I put the machine to like 10,000 hertz. And I just like laid on it. And I felt like this, where the pain was, I felt like this kind of crack. Like I just felt something go click in my back. And it felt like this warm, there's the only way I could describe it. It felt like warm honey. Very slowly, like a viscous liquid, very slowly go down my back and down my legs and then out my feet. And then it was like, it's gone. That pain that I was carrying for so many years just vanished. And that's when it just kind of like dawned on me, like, holy crap, this is like, my pain was energy, and I broke it. I broke the pain. It went through my legs. It felt like honey. And now I don't have that pain anymore. Very weird experience.
Yeah.
I've done something like that. I accidentally put the sticky part of the TINS machine on my spine. I didn't realize it was on my spine. And they say, don't do that. And I turned it on and it was like, zzz. I'm like, oh my God, but the pain was gone. But it came back. So do you think the physical pain could also be like a spiritual or psychological reason for sit your behind down because you got some work to do and you could do the dark night of the soul type stuff, and when all that's healed, your pain will go away?
Absolutely.
I'm asking for me. I'm asking for me because I do walk with canes. So
okay. Well,
yeah.
I would say in shamanistic work, when you do extractions of energies, entities, crystallized energy or blockages that are in the field or in the body, many people have had instantaneous healings where, you know, they've had this thing for so many years and then just it's gone. You know, so a lot of people see that through shamanic journeying, shamanic work, or even doing shamanic ritual with different medicines, where they could actually physically see now into the energy world and see that block, and in that altered state, remove it. And when they wake up, it's gone. Nice. So it's not for everybody and it hasn't worked for everybody, but there's plenty of people that it has happened to.
Okay. That's my plan for this month.
There you go. All right. Well, we only have a few minutes left in the show here. Jason, really appreciate everything this evening. Do you want to return to the Pyramid of...
Sure.
Because I did dig up that photo. And again, it was all over that particular, well, the tomb that's there within the pyramid. One of our few pyramids that actually have a tomb. And it's the, you know, basically it's kind of in the middle there. I don't know how well you can see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically you have your triangle with the circle over that. When I first looked at that, I was like, oh, it kind of looks like Mount Doom. But, well, what I thought was kind of interesting is, you know, not only do you have that, but right above it, you have what looks like the two snakes symbolizing energy above that. And you find kind of like a repeating pattern of that around the tomb, as well as like that, the X that's there. So, so what's your take? I'm just kind of curious because, you know, we've been, you know, playing around with some different interpretations. What your interpretation of that symbolism is?
I would love to have like a straight on, like as straight as you possibly can image of it.
Okay.
And then I would measure it for one and see what the measurements are.
Yeah.
Because, you know, this all goes back to mysticism. So I can't tell you the answer of that, but what I can say is, you know, what is a pyramid? You know, what does the mysticism say a pyramid is in the creation myths of Egypt? You know, it goes back to the separation of Ra from Nun, the dark waters. And when he is separated by speaking his name in his mind, becoming aware and conscious, he becomes the light. And what does his light do? The first act of creation is his light touches the Ben stone, which is the mound, the sacred mound. And in the creation myth, it says the Ben stone is the in the shape of a pyramid. Right. So the first light hits the pyramid. So a pyramid itself is solar symbolism. And, you know, if you look at, and here's one of the secrets is not just the pyramid, but if you look at an obelisk, for example, or even the Ben stone, you know, when you go to you see these black capstones on the top of the pyramids. Here's the secret that connects to the symbolism of the story is that when the earth is curved, okay, so when the obelisk is in the air or the pyramid is high up, when the sun the first crack of sunlight comes over that horizon, or even before the sunlight that you could visibly see over the horizon, if you look up at the capstone and you look up at the obelisk, that pyramid on the top will be illuminated.
Yeah.
All right. So the first light of Ra touches the Ben stone. Like this is the connection. So if you have like the sun on top of the pyramid, see, like I have a very similar pyramid behind me that like
you do. Yep.
See, this one's 72 degrees pyramid, which is like a Nubian style pyramid. That one looks very similar to it, but I would still kind of measure to see exactly what it is. And then it shows the sun above it. So, you know, it's also, for me, it's that connection between the first light of the sun and the secret of the pyramid.
Okay.
but you know, I'm just spitballing some.
You are, yeah. And no, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Like I said, you would be kind of, kind of playing around with some different interpretations of it and trying to figure out, what fits, because we have been finding that in other parts of the world. So again, what are the connections? What are the relationships and these sorts of things? So,
yes.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll end it with this, and I'll share. But once I, let's see if I could find this for you.
But you know what? That almost looks like the I don't know, the thing Tesla built that had the dome and the energy came out.
Warden Cliff Tower. Yeah.
Yes, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, very, very cool. Okay, so
You got it.
yeah, I'll share this with
Yeah,
you
you
in 1 second.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you're saying you're finding things at different places in the world.
Right. Exactly.
And
And
again,
that's something that always fascinates me, is finding those connections.
okay, so here we go.
Yeah. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah.
Okay, so we have the staff god motif.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have the Ankh, symbol of life, holding the Wa's scepters. And then so this is from Abydos. Yeah. And if you measure the lines from the head to the basket, this is the water basket of life, like you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
If you measure it, it's exactly 23.5 degrees, right? And if you go to the opposite, or the exact opposite end of the world, in Bolivia, this is from the gate of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also holding these two staff rods. And if you look at, and they say this is a solar deity, it has the 24 rays, which are the 24 hours. But if you look at the eyes, so these staffs have eyes on them. And even his vest, I don't know if you can see, he's wearing like this vest.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so if we measure from the eyes to the motif to the hands, this whole image itself is based off this number of 23.5 degrees. So even though these are very different pictures, like very different artistic interpretations of different gods or symbols, it still follows this solar motif of 23.5 degrees.
Yeah, the angles are still there. That's fascinating. Yep. So
the reason why I keep pushing all of this is because it's kind of out of a left field. It's everybody's trying to prove that there's some type of connection, but I'm just saying, if you just follow the numbers, if you just follow the math, it's not an interpretation. Mm-hmm. It's built into the artifact itself. So, and numbers are a universal language. They only mean very specific things. So if you just follow that number, then you start to understand these motifs a little better.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. Well, thank you much, Jason. I really do appreciate it this evening. So we're at the end of our hour. If you could let everybody again know where they can find you, your work, of course. Latest book again here is Gates of the Anunnaki by Jason Quitt, of course. So where can they find you, my friend?
Oh, so there's the Egyptian postures.
Egyptian postures, yeah.
The Anunnaki. You can get them on Amazon if you just look my name up, Jason Quitt. But my main website, where I have the books and different crystals as well, I sell a lot of crystals, is thecrystalsun.com. And I'm always posting on Twitter. That's kind of like my note board, where if I find something new, I just put it on Twitter, and then I'll put it on Facebook. So it's Jason_Quitt, and just Jason Quitt on Facebook.
Fantastic. All right. Well, again, thank you so very much. Those that are members of the Connected Universe portal, please stick with us for the after show. Those that are listening to the podcast version of this later, you can join us live every Wednesday night, 8:00 p.m. Eastern time, connecteduniverseportal.com. And then, of course, the YouTube live stream. So, all right. Till next time. Time really exists.